Alright, so, 2 weeks ago, I did a video where I was talking about stories from when my brother was in town. We went to this little shop, or this, collection of shops. It's kind of like a consignment store. There was little booths and stuff. It had all these junk, just antique-style junk, and non-antique-style junk, just junk. And I'm going to put as the thumbnail the image that I'm talking about, but there was this painting, I don't want to say it was an oil painting because it didn't have the texture. It was like a printed oil painting, maybe, of what appeared to be like this old-fashioned Pentecostal, holy roller service, and probably of a minority kind of ethnicity service. And if you come from a church background, whether that's more like the Hispanic kind of Catholicism, or if that's the like African Methodist, like Episcopal, or any of those, you'll know what I mean. Like that Black Baptist big choir kind of thing, you know. It is that kind of a service, and people were getting all into it the way that is standard for that subscription. And the thing about it is that the booth that it was in was all this vintage toys, Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom action figures, the Marvel Extreme, the just NASCAR Winner's Circle, just vintage, throwback, old-fashioned kind of toys. They don't really make them like that anymore, kind of stuff. And Polly Pocket, of all things, haven't seen those in a long time, or the Mighty Max, they're just junk like that. And so when I saw it, it was framed center, right in the middle, almost like everything was pointing towards it. And my first instinct was it was some kind of it was a backdrop for a Street Fighter Alpha Hyper Turbo 2 fight. There was gonna be these dudes and they're getting all crazy. In the background you have Guile throwing sonic booms and the Shadoken kicks and stuff like that. That's what I was thinking. I was like, that's so weird, and yet it's so odd, it's so hilarious that I had to take a picture of it and show it all to you people. And as I was doing so, see, I grew up Pentecostal, so I feel like I have a little bit more reasonable access to making fun of, or kind of making light of this kind of thing. Because the simple fact is that most of that behavior is absurd. It's the kind, and I think it's often justified in the frame of, you're going to get all crazy, wild, paint yourself up for the Colts game on Sunday, or the Indiana basketball game on Thursday, Friday, and then come to service on Sunday with a suit and tie on, and you're just going to sit there all stoic. And they equate that with that you're idolizing the experience at the sports stadium while you are kind of going through the motions on Sunday. And what I would say, that this hyper active, hyper energetic form of worship is actually something along the opposite, where you're trying to bring pagan worship into God's temple. That's what it seems to be. It's like a Roman emperor slaughtering a pig on God's altar in the temple, and then calling that Christian worship. It's Malachi, where it's bringing the sick and weak and blind and lame animals to God's sacrifice, so that you can keep the good animals for yourself. That's what it strikes me as. I think that attitude, that environment of hyper emotionalism, exuberance, and emotional kind of sensationalism is kind of the on-ramp that built us into the situation we're at now, where you have worship leaders that have built careers out of writing worship music and touring with world famous worship groups, saying, yeah, I was never a Christian to begin with, and that I don't want to be a Christian, and that it's all fake, and I want everyone to follow me into my new paganism that I'm about to embark on, or just divorce my wife, abandon my family, blah blah blah, or getting caught in egregious sin, because the primary focus is I want to feel. And quite honestly, most of the best ways or most effective ways to feel are founded upon sinful desires. Whereas, yes, we should we should be willing to celebrate with the ones who are celebrating, mourn with the ones who mourn, and emotions are God's gifts, and that we should be free to experience them in various contexts. But I think that as soon as we abandoned faithful exegesis of the Word and faithful discipline with reading God's Word on a daily basis as congregants, no wonder when we get together on Sunday morning, all we have is this empty emotionalism that builds careers for pagans instead of elevating elders that are, first off, one-women men who love their wives, love their children, that have the example and the traits that you see in Timothy and Titus and 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians. So I think that this image that I found, it's something of it's a relic. It's something that we will look back at in in future generations as the same way that we look back on Roman Catholicism, that we look back on Orthodox Judaism. We look back on these things of that they were not doing it right, but they were passionate. And doing things wrong way with passion is the same as a child temper tantrum, quite frankly.